Welcome to Australia and to the Rockpit, Kelly. For those who aren't aware of who you are, I'm joined by Kelly Garni, artist, writer, photographer, bassist, founding member of Quiet Riot, childhood friend of Randy Rhoads, and celebrator of his life. Welcome. How are you?
Hey man, thanks a lot, and hello to all of Australia. I cannot wait to come out there and hug and say hi to all of you.
So the reason for our chat, obviously, is that you're headed out to Australia in December for a series of shows that celebrate the life, music, and legacy of Randy Rhoads. What can you tell me about what we can expect from those shows?
Well, first let me say I've been doing this for a little while, and it's not really something I go out and look for. It's people keep coming to me, and I'm not too surprised because I see the online presence of Randy is so strong and people just love that connection of well that guy, he really knew Randy and he played with Randy and I can't wait to hear what he says, so they bring me out there for that. And that's basically what's going on this time too, but this time's a little bit different.
Okay, so in saying that there will be performances and so much, it's not so much a celebration of talking about who Randy was. Um,
Right.
there'll be the celebration of his music. So the interesting thing about these shows too is that one of the shows in Sydney falls on what would have been Randy's 69th birthday. Tell
Uh-huh.
me about what you've got planned for from the live music aspect of these shows.
Well, in the past what I've done is I've played with just local musicians who play in the area regularly. And this time I'm bringing some people to the show that are a little bit more well known. And the Q&A is probably going to be the most interesting thing about the show. Although the show will be good, I guarantee you that. But this time around, we're really, really doing it up in such a way that it's going to be different and it's going to be more on a professional level. And that hasn't been the case in the past. In the past, it's been I'm in a small club, I'm with a bunch of, uh, nobodies really, not to uh, badmouth them at all. Everybody starts somewhere, and these are guys that just want to play with somebody who did, all the things that I did, and play with that guy. So this time it's a little bit different. It's going to be more of a professional presentation. It's a show.
So when you mentioned that you're bringing some special guests with you, who are the members of the band, or is it a rotating multi-guest live show?
It's going to be like, okay, well, I have guys with Van Hagar that are going to be playing with me quite a bit. My friend Scuba Steve, whom I met in Japan, he's in a band, Snakebite Whiskey, who plays out there in Australia quite a bit and is soon coming to the States. And I'm very happy about that because he's doing Las Vegas as well. And so I'll be able to reconnect with him. But I met him at one of my shows in Japan I did last November, and I just took an instant liking to the guy. And he said, "Oh, we have to bring you to Australia." I said, sure, sure, yeah, I'll go. I go wherever people ask me to go, and and sure enough, he put it together. I didn't expect that, but what they've done heretofore is really ramp up the level of talent that I'll have. And since it is in Australia, that's going to add a different level to it because there's some very, very key people in Randy's life who live in Australia who have agreed to participate in this show.
Oh wow, that's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. I think From everything that I've read so far about this is really going to be something that is going to be a very, very unique experience, and perhaps potentially a once in a lifetime for
Yes,
everyone
it
involved.
actually is a once in a lifetime thing because I'm getting kind of up there in age and I don't know how much longer I can do this, but I'm having a great time doing it. I'm having a great time meeting with the fans and I've up till now I've only known them through things like Facebook and stuff, and I just can't wait to see them in person.
Now, you released an autobiography, Angels with Dirty Faces, which tells your story
Yeah,
and and details, goes into detail about your friendship and relationship with Randy Rhoads. For
yeah.
for those that haven't had the opportunity to read the book, uh, just tell us briefly how you first met Randy, your impression of him, and how the friendship began.
We were thrust into junior high, which here in America means that you're sent to a much bigger school than the smaller school that you went to. He went to a different school than I did prior to being thrown into this mix of junior high, and neither of us really fit in. We were real young. We were I guess they call us freshmen or something. I don't even know, but we were new. And so suddenly we have all these people, who are older, bigger, and all that, and we don't know them, and neither of us fit into the whole scene that was going on in our school. So I saw Randy, I saw him walking around, and I thought, look at that guy. There's just something about him that is so different from anybody else in this school. And I was a loner, he was a loner. And because of that, we gravitated towards each other. One day, I just walked up to him at lunch. He was eating the same thing as I was, which was tacos. And I said, "Hey, we're both eating tacos. Great." And I sat down and I started talking with him, and I knew immediately my instincts were correct that there was something extremely special about this guy. I always say that when he was walking around and I was watching him, he seemed to have a glow around him, you know, that just made him stand out from everybody else that was there. And I was fascinated by that. And I really wanted to get to know this person. And finally, I was talking to him. We got along splendidly. And next thing I know, I was drawn into his world, which was all about music.
Now, it's also said that Randy sort of drew you into his world of music, and that he taught you bass and brought you your first bass. Is that correct? And how did you feel with connecting him with Randy on that level?
Oh, that was just a great thing. I mean, I had dabbled in some music and stuff, but it was what he was all about. He didn't care about anything else in the world except music. Whereas I was like, well, it looks like fun, but I hadn't taken any lessons or anything. I had rented guitars and things like that, and it never occurred to me to be a bass player. And Randy made it clear he kind of needed a bass player. So I said, all right, I'll be a bass player. It sure seemed easier than guitar. It had less strings. And so he started teaching me. We started on an old Gibson guitar, which I can't even imagine what that is worth these days. And I just played the first four strings on it and did bass on it. And he was teaching me things. What was going on was he was taking lessons from a guy who's going to be a big part of this show, and that's Scott Shelley, who was his guitar teacher at Randy's mother's music school, Musonia. And Randy would learn from Scott, and then he would come home and teach me. And so it was going like that. And I finally realized, not really until yesterday when I had a nice long talk with Scott. We had a great conversation. But I realized Scott was teaching me too, through Randy. And we were putting our own spin on everything that he was learning.
Was Scott the infamous guitar teacher that said or made statement to Randy and his mum, look, I can't teach him anymore.
That's the guy. You see, you have to remember, Scott, when he was hired as a teacher at Musonia, he was only 16 years old. I didn't even know that until I spoke with him. And to us, he was an older guy because, we're like 11, 12 years old doing all this stuff. So he was this old guy. And, um, I zoomed with him yesterday and I looked at him and I go, God damn, you look younger than me. How did this happen? uh, but yeah, he was just 16 years old. So he was just, learning himself. And as Randy famously said many, many times, and it couldn't be truer, I can testify to this, having myself been a teacher, that you learn so much from your students, it's almost better than taking lessons. So having Scott Shelley on board with this project is going to be huge. At first, I thought, all right, so we've got Randy's guitar teacher up there. What's he going to say? Oh, I gave Randy a lesson and he learned really quick. No, there's so much more to it than that.
I could imagine there'd be the whole insight and just basically being there to understand, I guess, the level of ability that Randy had.
Yeah,
I can
he
imagine the
says very
story.
beautiful things about his impressions of Randy as a student. And ironically, Randy became the teacher at Musonia right about when he was 16 years old. So, um, for Randy never said anything like that about any of his students, but Scott said it, and he said it about Randy Rhoads, and rightfully so.
Absolutely. So, at what stage do you and Randy decide to go and find Kevin DeBrow and Drew Forsyth and form Quiet Riot?
Well, once me and Randy had learned kind of what we were doing, and our main goal was we want to be in a band, we want to be rock stars. That's all we thought about. We didn't want to go to school, we didn't want any of this school stuff, so we just didn't go. And we would practice all day long and play and play. And we had a number of bands before Quiet Riot. We had a band called the Cats and Jammer Kids. We had a band called uh, Mildred Pierce. We had a band called, and don't ask me why. I do not know why. A couple of kids decided to name their band this, and I have a picture of this band. But for some reason, we had a band called The Whore. I have no further explanation of that.
What can one say, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, rhyme or reason
We're,
probably just needs to be left as it is, I guess.
yeah. I'll leave it right there. You guys figure it out. You know how a couple of 15-year-old kids said, "Let's call our band the Whore." That sounds like a great name. I mean, even in this day of age where you have bands out there, called like Cradle of Filth and things like that, you know, it's the Whore. Really? Who are these guys? What do they do?
Mm, absolutely. So, as a part of forming Quiet Riot, was the name something that you came up with, or something that the band came up as a collective?
The name Quiet Riot came from a rather interesting source. Um, for some reason, and I can't I know Randy came up with this name because we had actually watched the movie, and the movie was called Little Women. So originally we were called Little Women, which, judging by the many comments I've heard from people over the years about the way we dress, that was maybe not that bad of a name. Um, but we've eventually decided, well, it's just not good enough for this band. And so Kevin was a budding photographer who went to a lot of concerts, and he had gone to a concert to see a band called Status Quo out of England, and he was backstage with them. He used his photographer status to get backstage passes to a lot of concerts. And he was talking to a guy named Richie Parfait, who was the guitar player in Status Quo. Now, these guys were from England, and they had a very heavy Cockney accent, which was really hard to understand. But Richie said to Kevin, for some reason, I have no idea why, I never really heard why he was even on the subject. They were in the dressing room, his bandmates are there, and I don't know if there was some unhappiness or what, but Richie commented, if I ever have my own band, I'm gonna call it Quiet Riot. And he meant quite right. And Kevin interpreted it that he said Quiet Riot. So one day at our first manager's house, one night actually, after rehearsing and partying and all the prerequisite stuff that goes on with people like us, we were sitting around, we were going, yeah, Little Women name, it's just not, it doesn't have anything, and Kevin said, I got a good name. And he said, I was talking to this guy, and he said if he had his own band, he would call it Quiet Riot. And we went, ah, now that's cool. We'll take it. Boom, Quiet Riot was born.
Wow, wow! I had no idea to the backside of that story. I'm a big Status Quo fan, so it resonates a little bit more as well. So what a great story. Now,
Andrew, sorry, suddenly I'm having trouble hearing you.
oh, okay. Have Are we back?
Oh, we're not done that I know of, but
No, no, no. But you can hear me again.
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me again?
Not at all. I don't know if it's on my end or your end. Let me click on your little picture here and see if it says something. Uh, I I don't know why it's suddenly doing that. I mean,
Wow.
I know the volume is up on my phone, yes.
Yeah, everything's up on my end as well. All right. This is
Okay, well, I will strive to hear you. I'm hard
all
of
right.
hearing
Sorry.
anyway, so this is challenging.
Okay. Um, okay, you do two records as Quiet Riot, QR1, QR2 as they're known in fan circles. Uh,
Yes, they
the songs for
go ahead.
those, the writing partnership between you and Randy, was that one that developed during the course of those two records?
I'm sorry, did what develop?
The writing partnership between you and Randy.
To be honest, once we got Kevin in the band, and this is one of the things that caused a lot of friction between me and Kevin, was that once he was in the band, he took over. Prior to that, it was just me and Randy on our own. I kind of handled the so-called business end, which would be finding out where there was a party this coming weekend, a kegger, as we call them out here in America, where a bunch of surfers would, get a keg, a beer, and hold a big party in their backyard, and we would play. And we did that every single weekend, and that's where we really cut our teeth. we weren't the only ones doing that. A lot of bands did that. Van Halen, sure enough, was doing the same exact thing, and it was a lot of fun and a good venue. But once we were in Quiet Riot, suddenly music became the music business, and I learned that real quick. And Kevin was running the show, and a lot of times I didn't like what he was doing, and he really had a thing for Randy. He adored Randy, which was hard not to do. And I felt a little bit like my best friend was getting stolen from me. Uh, because he was always, Randy, let's do this, Randy, let's go here, come on, I'll take you over to this. And I was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Now, me and Randy were always hanging out, but Kevin clearly saw me in the way of a good friendship with me and Randy. He was very jealous of the friendship I had, and that was a lot of the friction right there. So as far as the writing of the music, um, Kevin was pretty good as far as we were concerned at writing lyrics and things like that. The music was primarily written by the whole band, but Kevin would write the lyrics, and we would all kind of chime in with our suggestions. What about this word? What about that word? And so really there wasn't too much writing between me and Randy. Oh, but we did have some originals that we had written while before Quiet Riot, and I'll be doing those songs in Australia. And we wrote those songs because back in those days, you didn't play other people's songs. You played your own songs because you wanted to be a different band. You wanted to be unlike anybody else and you wanted your own sound. So you didn't do like popular music that was going on back in those days. Um, we definitely got a hell of an education, learning all the Alice Cooper songs we could, all the Black Oak, Arkansas songs we could, and anybody else that caught our ear. But really, as far as the writing, that was mostly a Kevin and Randy thing, and Kevin was pretty good at directing Randy as far as what he was looking for to sing to.
Exactly. It's so interesting to hear these things from such an inside perspective. Um, we are running out of time, and there is so much to talk about. And look, I really can't wait for this Q&A, and hopefully there's an opportunity that presents itself for us to chat together again. Just from the time that Quiet Riot broke up, or you had exited the band, and obviously the hiatus that the band sort of took from the public. How was your relationship with Randy up until his passing?
Well, my relationship with Randy was always great. I mean, we were best friends, and nothing was going to change that. I had too much time. We had too much time vested in our friendship to ever be anything else but best friends. And so that never changed. And we still did stuff together. We hung out, we did things, and we lived very close to each other until eventually I moved out from my parents' place when I was 16 years old, and I moved in with a somewhat older girlfriend that I had. And but that didn't make any difference. He still came to my house where I lived, and we had parties and things like that. We had a lot of fun. I mean, we raised a lot of hell. We would go out whenever we weren't playing or rehearsing. We would go out, and we had a pretty good program for how to have a good time. We would drive around in the Hollywood Hills. We would find a big mansion with a whole lot of cars parked in front of it and go, there's a party going on there. We'd knock on the door and say, Bob invited us. And they'd go, okay. And they'd let us right in. And then we'd proceed to eat all their food, drink all their liquor. And we didn't know anybody there. So we were doing that all the time. Every Friday and Saturday night, we were doing things like that.
Amazing. Well, Kelly, we are pretty much out of time. I know you have a really busy day with interviews this morning. Look, thank you so much for your time. I'd love to chat with you again, but most importantly, I'm super excited for these shows in Australia in December that celebrate not only your story, but your story of your time with Randy, the music of Randy, and the people that are close to him. So thank you again for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and yeah, seriously, cannot wait to see you out here in December.
Andrew, it was great talking to you, and I'm so happy that you decided to interview me and gave me that opportunity to tell everybody about this show, which, if I can take a moment here and remind everybody, we've got Friday, the 5th of December, I'm going to be at the Crowbar in Brisbane. Sunday, the 7th of December, I'm going to be on a Sydney Harbor cruise. I can't wait for that one. That sounds like a lot of fun to me. And then Tuesday, the 9th of December, I'll be at Max Watts in Melbourne. And I'm hoping that all my friends in Australia come out. And even if we're not friends, if you're a fan of Randy Rhoads, you do not want to miss this.
Excellent. I will be there in Melbourne. You can't drag me away from this one. So again, thank you for your time, Kelly, and here's to good health and a speedy, well, a seamless timeline to December.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Not a problem. We'll see you soon.
All right. See you soon in Australia.